Recording now. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Some of you are in the afternoon, and we have 35 people on here. 70 people have registered. It's a nice crowd. I just want to say that as I keep doing this, I'm really glad to have studied breath for 30-something years, 32 years, and have it all come to be. I'm going to put everybody on mute. Have it all come to. So everybody's being muted, so there's no backup. If you need to talk, if you want to speak, if you want to jump in, ask a question, please just either raise your hand or just unmute yourself, because I can't see everybody, so I don't see what hands will go up. And then we'll answer your question as best we can. So I'm really glad that I've studied so long and have these skills. And yet every once in a while, of course, this is a heartbreaking event to be doing, but it's necessary for us to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work, where is this? Okay, I am just a little technical stuff here. I'm going to share my screen. So you will see the slideshow and probably a smaller picture of me. So now I can see everybody. So you see the slide?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is us today. This is a picture from an article that I gave you. A lot of things, when you get the slides, you'll see down towards the end, there are a lot of references and links to go to. This is from an article that I really appreciated, that I thought was just looking at what are the other side of the virus and what's happening over there. So I want to just say that the purpose of this presentation is to provide the information that I have to strengthen the immune system, to keep it strong, resilient, and healthy, along with your respiratory system and all other organs. So as a breathing teacher, I'm a Buteyko breathing teacher and a breathing behavior analyst. So I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice, but this is what I know and what other Buteyko practitioners know and have had success with in helping people stay strong and reduce symptoms of respiratory distress. And you can find Buteyko practitioners online at buteykoeducators.org in your area if you want more work, or you can talk to me privately and do sessions online privately. So breathing is one of the most effective tools to accomplish this goal of staying healthy. And some things I'll say now probably will come up on the slide again later, but I consider the nose and breathing is the first order of our immune system. It's not somewhere, and it is definitely down in the white blood cells and other places, but how we breathe and how we use our breathing is our immune system. Our whole body is an immune system, not just any particular piece of it on the side, reduction idea. It's all part of the immune system. And so this is the first most important part, is breathing through your nose. You breathe through your nose. Nose is for breathing and the mouth is for eating. You breathe through your mouth as often as you eat through your nose. That's the little quip we have, and it's meant to be to remind you of that. So very important. So say more about that. And pace your activity level anytime you're doing anything. So you continue to breathe through your nose, including exercise. So I'm going to give you a couple of pictures here. So these are some very skilled nose breathers. The woman on the left is Sonia Richards-Ross. She's picking up a gold medal after running a quarter mile. And look at her nice, quiet composure, mouth closed. Just ran 440 meters, fastest woman in the world. Kept her mouth closed. I'd rather be the woman on the left than the woman on the right, who looks like she's stressed and having a really hard time. She did study Buteyko for many years with a practitioner to learn how to do this. The swimmer on the right, not sure where he came from. Somebody sent me that image, but a good nose breather while swimming. Difficult to do, but with calm, easy practice can be done. So nose versus mouth breathing. We're going to track effort, belly or chest, and fight or flight. So really, what's going on, of course, is that we are both all sad and heartbroken of people who are losing their lives, losing their jobs. And we know that we are also carrying a certain amount of anxiety around what's happening and whether it's going to affect any of us financially, the people we love, ourselves. We know that. So the most important thing we can do is not trigger that anxiety. So this is a little bit of an exercise we're going to do together to show you the difference between what happens when you use your mouth to breathe and what happens when you use your nose to breathe, in the opposite possibility of the mouth breathing. So I'm going to invite you to put one hand on your chest and one hand below your rib cage, around your belly button, around that area in there. And just as you're breathing, you're with your nose breathing, you just want to track which hand moves first. See if you can feel which one moves first. And also a sense of how your nervous system feels in this particular moment. You know, are you carrying a lot of anxiety, or are you feeling like as you breathe through your nose and following my voice and being here with everybody else, that we are relaxing somewhat? When you get a really good sense of that, then take a breath or two through your mouth. See where breath moves to. And what happens in your nervous system and in your heart rate, in the effort to breathe. And then go back to nose breathing. And you can go back and forth a couple of times just to see the difference. You can register that difference. So most people report that when they breathe through their mouths, breath moves to the chest, comes up into the smaller space of the chest. A little harder to take in a big breath or more air there. And nervous system gets a little activated. So do you feel that's true? Can some of you acknowledge the truth of that? Shake your heads. Yeah, so great. So there's a real simple piece right there. When you're feeling anxious, it's the first thing to do is check into, have I been using my mouth for breathing? And immediately see if you can, I'm going to do some exercises to drop you down, but see if you can immediately begin to open up the tension around your lower belly. And let that diaphragm be in use instead of coming up into your chest. It's also a good idea if you're having wondering of where you might be breathing to look in the mirror. If you see a lot of this coming up, you know you're pulling up. You don't want to see your shoulders moving. You don't want to see a lot of activity up in the top, but you want to feel the diaphragm open. And have some easy breath. It's an automatic for the nervous system. You know, if I always say it this way, if a bear came through your front door, the first breath you would take would be, and you'd be immediately into full-on fight or flight. Heart rate, speeded heart rate. You wouldn't be interested in anything on the outside of you. You'd be totally geared towards activating as much of your system as you possibly can. And one of the things that happens is the immune system gets overactive. And we'll cover that a little bit more later too. So there's the first piece. Go back to this. You breathe through your nose, mouth as often as you eat through your nose. You pace your activity level so you can stay in nose breathing most of the time. Good practice to stay slowed down. So I'm doing the best I can to practice breathing while talking and following that second mandate to pace yourself. You feel like you're going to use your mouth for breathing, you're moving too quickly. I'm pacing myself. So what that looks like is, of course, that I'm speaking now and I'm exhaling with my words, but when I feel like I'm running out of air, I close my mouth. Breathe back through my nose until I feel like I register a point of satisfaction, like I have enough air, and then I close my mouth again. Take a breath in, take a pause for myself, let myself get renewed, refreshed on that next breath. Give you a chance to integrate what I've just said. And not trigger the fight or flight so that I don't get anxious in the conversation with you, but I can stay relatively quiet in myself and see what's the next thing for me to say. Not always an easy thing to do. It took me about a year to really master it. Some people get it quickly, but incredibly useful. Okay? So this article came through on the paper. Air pollution could make the COVID-19 and pandemic worse for some people. Pollution piles on top of other risk factors. So we're going to cover some of this, but nose breathing, the virus, unfortunately, is going to sneak through your filtering system in your nose as smoke, but other pollutions will not. Nose has a great ability to filter. Open your mouth to breathe, it goes right into your lungs. And that puts your lungs on alert. It puts them already in a down position, and you want to keep them pretty healthy so that if anything does come in, they're not already fighting other pollutants. So this is a devastating statistic, but 90% of the world's population right now does not have clean air to breathe. 91% of the world's population. 9 million people a year die from air pollution, and that's all we know of people who end up in the hospital. So some scientists now are now finally recognizing air pollution as a pandemic. It is a pandemic. 9 million people, that's quite a number of people. The interesting thing I find about this statistic is only 18% die from respiratory compromise. Half of that is from things like asthma and COPD. The other half is from cancer, lung cancer. But 72% of people who breathe in air, dirty air, die from heart attack and stroke. So the heart is much more susceptible to the air pollution. So I have to be really careful. We don't know how many people die of heart attacks and never get diagnosed that part of the problem was air pollution that came in. So nose breathing at least gives you a chance to filter a lot of that pollution out. Interestingly enough, on the left, you see China before the virus. On the right, you see China after the virus. We see it now. There's pictures of Los Angeles. There's pictures of San Francisco. There's pictures of Seattle. All of them, the air is clearing up because the virus decided you're not doing the job that needs to get done to keep this atmosphere in good shape, so we're going to make it happen. That's one facetious way to talk about it, but certainly so, air is cleaning up all around the world. And the thing that I like particularly is that cruise ships are coming off the seas, because one day of a cruise ship is like 1 million cars on the road. That's how much pollutant they put out in the air. And they dump 1 billion gallons of garbage in the sewer in the sea every year. So I'm glad to see them off the seas. So this is important. This news came through, and this is particularly true for asthmatics, for people who are using nebulizers and inhaler, that when your breath becomes aerosolized, which comes from being intubated or anything where the medical profession is putting something down your throat, including inhalers and nebulizers, it reduces the size of the particles of the water vapor in your breath. And so when your breath becomes aerosolized through these mechanisms, when you breathe out, and if you sneeze and cough and your breath has been aerosolized, it will hang in the air for 3 hours. Different than the bigger water droplets which come down to the ground. These, you could walk through a sneeze of somebody who used the medication 2 hours later and it will be in the air. And I'm not saying you will catch that because they don't really quite know yet what kind of load you need to breathe in to get the virus. But just be prepared if you are an asthmatic to be really careful in your own home because your breath is becoming aerosolized. And that's a little more dangerous. I personally think that sneezing and coughing is an aerosolized way of breathing as well. It's such violent and so, so many fine particles come out that it's a kind of aerosolized. I asked my daughter, who's a nurse, if she thinks that. She said, yeah, you're making a good point there. So we'll see. There's so much new information coming out every day. We have no idea yet on some of this. This really struck me a couple of weeks ago, so I like putting it on because I think whether or not it's up to the level of awareness in most of us, whether it's conscious or not conscious, our issue of trust in the planet and our survival here, in my viewpoint, is a bit at stake. We lost the trust of our soil and had to go to organics a while ago, if we could afford it. We lost the trust in our water supply and went to bottled water, which of course increased the plastic in the air. And it's been happening for a while, but we're now losing trust in our air. We don't know what we can breathe in that's safe, and we don't know whose other breath we can breathe. So underneath all of that, I think that's very disturbing to us as humans on a general plane. Whether we're up to consciousness or not, we're acting as if we don't trust what's in the air. And I think,
Robert,
yes.
I was in Ecuador recently. They actually have bottled air.
Yeah, I believe that. What really frightens me is some of the science fiction movies I've seen in the past, like Total Recall, you know, where everybody's living in a bubble and the air supply is from the outside, and then it's government controlled or corporate controlled, and they manipulate the population based on the air supply. Amazon built a bubble here in Seattle, you know, a little mini biosphere that people really enjoy going into, but it's the wave of the future, I think, if air does not clean up. So keeping ourselves as safe as possible with breathing skills that provide nourishment, keeping our body systems healthy. So for me, my breathing and my connection to my breath and what I know about breath and the teachings that breath supply me make it my primary relationship. I turn to my breathing when I want to connect to myself. My breathing brings me back to myself. It is my ally. I ask it all the time, what do you want me to learn today? It gives me information. I suggest you do the same to yourself. Be your breathing. When you turn into the sensations and movement of breath, you are breath. That's all there is there. That's the current present reality. So I'm just suggesting, and I know that's not true for people who are, you know, who have asthma and have COPD. Breathing has become very frightening. So I think it's important for us to make it a friend. And that's what I did when I was born not being able to breathe. I was an asthmatic as a young child, very frightened of my breath. And when I started learning, I made that decision. This cannot mean me any harm. I have to figure out what to do with it and learn it. And so I started that in 1988 and became a particular practitioner in 2003. Okay, so this is an important principle about breathing. And this was written in 1885. Over the oxygen supply of the body, carbon dioxide spreads its protective wings. We have a very wrong idea. In with the good and out with the bad. And people think what we're putting out with the bad is basically carbon dioxide. We got to get as much out of it as possible. It's not true. Carbon dioxide is a regulator of the distribution of oxygen. So what I write here is a simple way to remember the importance of this. Proper carbon levels of carbon dioxide in the body facilitates the delivery of oxygen to the cells for the body's energy production, can help dilate airways and blood vessels and relax smooth muscles in the airways. Best way to think about it is it increases oxygenation. Healthy levels of carbon dioxide increase oxygenation. In the time we have here, I cannot go too much into the science, but I made it as simple as possible. So the traditional ideas of taking a deep breath in, breathe in, and blow out through your mouth decreases oxygenation, and blowing out can spread the coronavirus. So you want to avoid this practice. Statistic I heard a while ago is 3 big breaths out of your mouth reduce your distribution of oxygen by 14% to your cells. When cells don't have enough oxygen, they manufacture energy on their backup system. So instead of 38 molecules of energy for every molecule of oxygen, without oxygen, they can make 8 molecules of oxygen. So the cells become immediately starved. That kind of starvation in the body is a tremendous stress on the body. When the body is internally starved for its primary nourishment, the whole system is off, especially the immune system. So be careful of taking deep breaths. So the best example to use for this is an example that most people know. Somebody may be getting up to sing or speak or get on television, and they get very anxious. They start to hyperventilate, start to breathe heavily through their mouth. And the next thing you know, they're about to faint, right? And so if somebody who knows something can run out there and give them a paper bag, and they breathe back through their paper bag, and the fainting goes away and they regain their composure. Well, while they were hyperventilating and giving off that CO2 levels, the flow of oxygen to the brain started to decrease. And when it got to a certain point and the brain didn't have enough oxygen, it fainted, basically. The nervous system put the body to faint, stop that kind of breathing pattern. And so breathing back in the paper bag or into your hands increases that CO2 level and starts the flow of oxygen again. brain receives enough oxygen and comes back awake. So be careful of taking a deep breath, being told to take a deep breath. My way of speaking about it is the nose is the guardian of the lungs. It's protecting the lungs, and it has 28 different, I have a list of 28 values that the lung does, processes, and it's at the end of the slideshow that you'll get at the end of this conference here. Well, I'll mail them to you and they're listed there. But one of the most important is that it filters particles down to 0.5 microns. That's most everything that's in the air, except for smoke and viruses. Human hair is 50 microns, so it's really tiny particles. It controls the temperature of the air to the lungs. In other words, the lungs like around body temperature air. When you breathe through your nose, you have enough blood vessels in your face and your sinuses and your nose to either put more heat onto the air or to take heat out of the air so the lungs get the right temperature. It regulates the humidity through the mucous membranes, so the air can be moist enough for the lungs so they're not struggling with dry air. And it produces antibacterial molecules. So any bacteria that's coming in can be neutralized. And it helps regulate the body's gas exchange between carbon dioxide and oxygen and nitrogen. This is my opinion only, but when stuff comes in the lungs directly through the mouth, it's already on major alert. If we present something to the nose first, at least I think there's a possibility, in my opinion only, that the nose would be on guard and send signals to the nervous system that something is invading us. So even with the virus, if we put it into the nose first, not directly into our throats, I think we have a little better chance of mobilizing our defenses for it. It's a personal opinion, but that's what I do for myself. So breathing is a habit. We all have habits on how we use our breath. Those habits have been laid in over time based on our history, our joys, our pains, and our anxieties. So we've all developed habits, and some of those habits really nurture breathing, and some of them dysregulate breathing. And so hard for us to know that right now, but you just have to trust that what I'm saying about nose breathing and mouth breathing, and this is one way to break a habit, is to make a list for yourself. When do I notice I use my mouth for breathing? And every time you make a list, you go, oh, well, okay, that's interesting. So the next time I do that thing, maybe I will remember not to do that. So two places that were really so strange for me was, one was when I started to open the door for my car to get out of my car, I immediately opened my mouth to breathe. I was driving fine, nose breathing fine, get out of the car, mouth opened up. I had no idea why I was doing that, but I don't do it anymore. And the other was this is a common fear. I had a great fear of the mailbox, getting mail. Something that was going to disturb my life. That's how controlling I was at one point. And I would open my mouth to breathe on the way to the mailbox and be really anxious about by the time I got there. And so I broke that habit. So mailbox does not frighten me anymore. So find out what it is for you. Yeah, Mary. Unmute yourself, Mary, can you?
I was wondering what advice you'd give to someone who has a stuffed up nose.
Coming up.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right, make yourself a list. Piece of paper and pen. You could even use a computer and make a list, but paper and pencil is just as good. The nose clearing exercise. Thank you, Mary. You are right on top of this. So what happens if your nose is stuffed? What are you going to do? So this is a potato exercise, nose clearing exercise. So basically, you want to try to breathe through your nose if you can. If you can't, you have to use your mouth for breathing because your nose is so stuffed, it won't work. So this is what this looks like. You begin to rock your head back and forth. So while you're inhaling, you breathe in. And while you're exhaling, you breathe out. You kind of get into that rhythm. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to demonstrate it, then we'll do it together. So after about the third time, and I breathe out, it's always at the end of the exhale, not a long extended exhale, just a couple of second exhale. Out, in, out. I pinch my nose. Wash your hands first. Make sure you wash your hands clean. Put your fingers up there. Bob your head up, 3 to 6 times, or until you feel a slight urge to breathe. When you do, You let go of your nose, cover your mouth, and make believe you're smelling a rose. Real gentle breath in. That's one alternative. Why I said 3 to 6 times or until you feel a slight urge to breathe. If people who have a heart condition, you don't want to stress by holding your breath too long. So if you have a heart condition or other medical conditions, just do it 6 times and repeat as often as you need after taking a breath again. If you're really healthy, learn to feel what the slight urge to breathe is so that when you let go of your nose, you don't take a big breath because that'll just stuff your nose right back up. But you take a real gentle breath to allow the nose, the air to go in a really small stream. It's already being prepared by the activity of the carbon dioxide from the movement to dilate the vessels and tell the epithelial tissues in your nose that the mucus they secreted to protect your nose can now be drawn back in to let the air come through a little more easily. If your neck is in bad shape, you can just stomp your feet, make some movement here, or you can walk back and forth. All of them are great options to do. But remember, when you let go of your nose after doing that, very gentle breath in, not a big breath in like that. Okay, now some people know the nose is stuffed. We change which nostril we breathe in every 20 to 90 minutes. So sometimes one is more stuffed than the other. So let's try it together again, see if there's any questions, see if anybody wants to make a comment about it. So we're going to do it again, all right? So let's just start bobbing your head. You breathe in, nice and slowly. Breathe out. Breathe in again. Breathe out. Pinch your nose. Bob your head, keeping your mouth closed. Slight urge to breathe, or 6 times. Let go. Cover your mouth. Gentle breath in. This will be on the slides that you get. Okay, good. Everybody good with that? Questions? It really works. If it doesn't work the first time, do it until you feel like your nose can get opened again. It'll eventually open. I had a swimmer in Arizona when I was teaching there. She was 28 years old. She hadn't breathed through her nose in like 25 years since she started swimming. A couple of these, she goes, oh my God, that's the first time I've breathed through my nose in 25 years. So trust it. Okay? Great. Questions? All right. Supportive posture helps reduce your airway resistance. This is a supportive posture. In particular, we call it the horse rider position. Sitting on the edge of your chair, like she is, where you're mostly on your sit bones. Your knees and legs are what's called the horse rider position, so that your knees are a little bit wider than shoulder width. Feet are flat on the floor. And this is a fabulous position because your vertebrae are touching each other in 3 places, 2 feet on each vertebrae and the body of the vertebrae. So you're duplicating the alignment of your own spinal column. And so there's no need for you to say, okay, sit up straight, roll your shoulders back. This posture, you could feel it, gets you up straight. The biggest thing is that it doesn't push your stomach into your lungs and make them harder to open. So just notice that. Feel a little easier to breathe in this position? That's some heads bobbing, yes. So the tongue is meant to be at the roof of your mouth, with your lips slightly resting on each other, teeth slightly touching. And this completes the respiratory circuit and opens the airways in the throat. So here's a picture coming up here. This is a person who's, I'm going to show my cursor here. This is the tongue, this is the roof of the mouth. The important part to hear is to see the size of the airway right here. This is a picture of somebody who's got their tongue down, lower than the roof of their mouth, and you can see the size of the airway has collapsed, because that means the tongue has moved back. And so you can feel that. You can play with that yourself if you're sensitive to sensation. Put the tongue up there, take a couple of breaths, and drop your tongue down. Can you feel the difference there, some of you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, really important, and especially if you're sleeping, you want to sleep on your side so that you don't sleep on your back and that tongue falls back in there. If you're getting a little bit, if you're older, the tongue tends to fall backwards. And if some of you who are more into esoteric anatomy, this is a Taoist practice as well for completing the microcosmic orbit of the energy of the body, blending earth energy and sky energy, and they meet at the top of the palate according to their cosmology. And when the tongue is up there, and I feel it, it's an immediate hookup. I just feel complete. If I drop the tongue down, it's sort of like something's missing. All right. So here's one of my favorite exercises that people really seem to like. So we want to increase airway and lung space. We want to reduce the resistance of breathing. And we want to let the body breathe you instead of you breathing the body. So just take a look. We're going to always do it. Nice to do a comparison. How much energy you spend in taking breath in through your will. Like when you breathe in, you are engaging in the breathing process. I'm exaggerating it here, but you're pulling air in, right? Can you feel it? Some of you're doing the pulling in. So when you pull air in your body and breathe in, you may feel an expansion, but just notice notice the tension level in your chest. And now when you breathe in, I want you to think, because when you think something, you will hear something. I want you to think the syllable. Just do the inhale first. Think the syllable sa while you breathe in. Just notice what happens in your chest cavity. And notice what happens to the airway resistance. And notice what happens to the swelling of the body. And notice where air is being pulled from. Are you still pulling it from the front of your nose, or is it being pulled from the back of your nose? And then try ha. And the exhale is meant to be passive, not meant for you to put any energy into it. So just to think ha when you're exhaling. Yourself complete your exhale as best you can. Do you like that? So,
Yes.
thank you. I practiced this for quite a while, so I know what it feels like to make that switch now, so I don't have to think sa and ha. But if I find myself working too hard, I go, oh, wait a minute. That's better. My body's breathing. I'm out of the way. Tongue at the roof of the mouth, good posture. I'm just watching my body breathe. So some of you may notice also that it's starting to slow down respiration, yeah? And also maybe notice that you're not taking as much air in at one time. Or you may notice on the first breath of this, you take a bigger breath in because you've been hungry for air for a while and your body's trying to self-regulate. So now, oh, the airways are open. I'm going to self-regulate, get as much as I need now, and then slow down again. This exercise gets rave reviews all the time, so trust it, ask questions. Any questions about it, any comments about it, we can put in here. That would be helpful. Oh, I see some. Oops.
I do have some questions. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Barbara. So I'm feeling that this isn't working. That when my nose, when I breathe into the nostrils, even with my tongue up, it's like there's a choking in my throat in a way.
Mm.
And like my nostrils aren't big enough. And that I need to breathe through my mouth to get enough air. And I know this is exactly what you're trying to teach us not to, but I'm feeling stuck.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, Barbara. It really depends on what you use. Couple things. One is there may be an obstruction. Your airway may be really narrow, behind your nose, one.
That's true. Yeah.
And okay, and also people who generally tend to mouth breathe, when they go to nose breathing, feel like it's not the same amount, so they feel like they're a little more hungry for air because they are used to bigger amounts.
Mhm.
So my suggestion to you would be, this is what I ask my body, to show me a breath that actually will pass through my throat. Breathe in a way
Mhm.
that will allow the air to move. Just ask your body to do that. Did that help?
Yes, something opened up in my chest opened, yes.
Your body knows what to do. It's just that we have sometimes, this is what I mean by habits. We have a way of breathing and have a habit of breathing may not be functional for us in some ways. But I'm just always amazed by that particular thing when I ask my body to breathe in a way that meets the need there to open it up or to relax it. The body intelligence takes over. And so it worked for you this time. So take that cue, feel what opened up, and keep trying to build in a new habit around that. Thanks for the question.
Thank you very much.
And Suzanne, you raised your hand. Unmute yourself.
Yes, okay. Thank you for your patient tutoring. I have asthma and I took the Buteyko classes many years ago. And I definitely can attest to the nose clearing exercise for sure.
Great.
I tape my mouth when I sleep, and I can't go to sleep without taping my mouth now.
Me either.
Love it. 3 questions I had real quick about the nose. You said that the nose can filter things, but not the virus. But I thought that the mucous membranes in the nose are better to maybe trap the virus and possibly naturally kill it.
Well, well, it's good information. I think you're right that the mucous membranes can. There are instructions on how to use those mucous membranes to get this virus down into the stomach before it goes into the lungs. But the particles are small enough that they will pass through the normal filtering system.
Oh.
So,
okay, well, as a follow-up question, then I want to ask.
and you may have more information than I do, and I like what you're saying. So I do trust that the mucous membranes can be acting, and as well as the body supplying something that may be innovative in the body, because that's the way bacteria works. When we get a new bacteria and we don't have antibodies for it, the body makes them. So our body will make something to fight what's coming through.
Right. Well, along those lines, if I could just ask for a couple habits that I've developed that I think are helpful in my allergies and therefore my asthma is using Panaris or saline solution daily in my nose. Are you familiar with Panaris, right?
I actually am not familiar with NARS, but saline solution for sure.
The Panaris is something that a friend of mine who's a sinus surgeon told her she could not afford to have one more sinus surgery. And it's a product you can get over the counter. The astronauts used it in NASA in the space shuttles to avoid any germs that they picked up on Earth from multiplying when they were in space. And on the little box, it has a picture of the astronauts on it. And it basically is some emollient oils that you can put on a Q-tip in your nose. And it actually helps keep your nose moist so that it can function. Like, you know how they say on an airplane when you get dehydrated? And you're more susceptible to getting sick because your mucous membranes dry out. So this is a way to put this emollient oil to keep your nose always filtering. Or if people can't tolerate the oils because they have a strong scent and some people are allergic, then they can just use the saline spray. And I also heard a doctor talk about gargling with salt water because our nose and our throat could catch the virus for a while. And if we gargle with warm salt water, we could expel it. And I also use a neti pot. So I wanted to get your comments on that.
Yeah, I've got some slides for that later. Can you spell Panaris for us?
P-O-N-A-R-I-S.
Yeah, great. So I was, up last week's lecture, I did this twice now. I was demonstrating or showing a slide, and I'll show it later, about the saline solution. And somebody came back at me and said, their doctor said that the saline solution will kill any natural bacteria in there that's going to attack the virus. So I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I haven't been able to see more. What I have read, why I'm liking what you're saying about Panaris, is that the virus does have a lipid-soluble membrane. And naturopaths and other herbalists are recommending oils in the nose because those oils can break down the membrane of the virus. So, I'm using Eucalyptus globalus, Z-O-L, it's a spray up in there, just not in the nose, but around my nose to prevent anything that's coming through the air. But there are other essential oils that people are using because of that reason too. So it makes sense to me about the Panaris.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and I have a whole list of things that came through today, like the gargling that I'm going to go. I put a slide up for that, so I'll get to that.
Thank you. And the neti pot?
The neti pot, same thing there. What I've been doing regularly when I come in from the outside, or I just take my hands on the warm water and I throw it up in my nose and just rinse my nose out and then blow it, and just do the best I can there. Neti pot, I can do the same thing. They don't work with stuffed noses, but I'm just, you can use a neti pot without salt if you want to. The thing about the neti pot, and I should be more careful here, though I've already had my water tested here, so I know there's no bacteria in it. But in some areas, especially in the South and in Florida, that people who use the neti pot got bacterial infections from the water.
Oh, yeah.
So you use sterilized water
Yes.
for the neti pot. So be careful about that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne. Yeah. All right, so let's just do a couple of breathing meditations. So, from the whole Buteyko principle is that people generally tend to overbreathe, which means they have a high volume of air coming in their body, too much air, too much expelling of oxygen, carbon dioxide. So we have a practice called reduced breathing. I call it restorative breathing. It's about slowing your air down, slowing your airway down, slowing your breathing down, so you're not hyperventilating, so you're not overbreathing. And I found this to be the easiest way for me to immediately, I'm using breath. Instead of me trying to train breath to do something other than it wants to do, I'm using the breath itself as a tool to slow my breathing down. And so my breath is doing the slowing down, I know I'm on the right track. So we're in a comfortable position here. And so we're going to use gravity as a tool to both open the airways, to open the diaphragm at a lower level, and also to slow the breathing down. So this is it. So while you're breathing through the nose, we're doing this as a meditation together. So while you're breathing through the nose, we'll start off with one part of it. Instead, all of you probably know, when people are told to pay attention to the breathing, most people don't want to do it. It's like, no, thank you. Mostly because when they pay attention, what comes in is sort of sometimes a constriction, or they're already in the mindset of, am I doing it right or wrong? Well, as soon as you put on the right or wrong onto breathing, it's not going to work properly. It is already going to, one of my clients once described it, as soon as I do that, it's like a wild stallion that wants to get out of the corral. So I pay attention to movement. It's what's moving. So I pay attention to the movement of air, if I can notice that through my nostrils and my airways. And my body is moving in response to the change in the pressures in my body. There's more air in my body, so I'm becoming more buoyant. So using Saha, just for a couple of minutes here, let's just pay attention to the movement in through the whole cycle. And you can begin to notice that when you exhale, we'll go to the exhale first, that the movement of your body is narrowing, but is also getting heavier and moving towards the earth. So when it moves towards the earth, what may come into more relief in your awareness is that wherever you're sitting, you're getting more in contact with and aware of the support that's coming up from underneath you to hold your body, that you can let the exhale soften those tensions, release them, because you're not going to fall through the floor. The chair is under your butt and your floor is under your feet. And when you breathe in, you swell a little bit. And you get more aware of moving upwards into space. And those are the two forces of gravity, a downward pull and an upward lift. And so on each exhale, if you continue to allow yourself to receive the support incrementally, exhale by exhale, you may notice that you have small little releases of tension. You don't know where they're going to appear, but then all of a sudden you may drop a shoulder, you may soften your ribs, your eyes may get heavier. You may have more sensations in your body. And so the thing to do to keep your body breathing from the lower arteries is when you feel that support and where you rest on your support, keep the awareness of that support as you breathe in. Just keep the awareness of the location and the feeling of support. And then inhale. And you do that breath after breath, and you may find that the breath really feels like it's arriving from where you're supported. So another way of my saying that is the inhale is arriving from where you left off with the exhale in your body. And on the inhale, it's important over time to really understand what feels satisfying. You may have an idea that you need more, but what it really truly feels like, I'm finished with my inhale. I got enough. And you can know that place, because if you start to put effort into getting more, you're overbreathing. So you may feel slightly hungry for air, but allow that feeling to be there. And then just release the exhale of the ha. Feel yourself returning to earth. And then breathing in and moving into space. It's like every basketball player knows who's going to make a jump shot. You got to go down to go up. And the other benefit of this, of course, is your heart rate slows down on your exhale. It gives the heart a rest. It picks up a beat on the inhale. Let's just do this for 2 more minutes. Play with the idea of opening up your meridians in your legs. Letting your feet really rest. The more you rest, the more tension you release, the more you feel your body moving with breath. So that you become a breathing body, not just breathing lungs, but a breathing body. And remember, there are no 2 breaths alike. Each one is an inquiry into what's going on now. And the other truth is that we don't know if we're going to get another inhale after the next exhale. We just take it for granted. So be grateful. And when you come out of this little meditation, don't open your eyes all the way. Just take a little sip of light. And just notice that your body's going to adjust its breathing rate as new input, new impulses, and new stimulus come in. So the body's paying attention to something other than breathing. Now I'm receiving light. And then just take little sips until you're ready to open your eyes all the way. So this is reduced breathing, the form of it. A way of slowing yourself down every once in a while, which I suggest you do 12 times a day, 5 minutes at a time. Great, welcome back. And the reason I say 12, because you want to get a sense of if you like this and it feels good to you and you feel like you enjoy the quiet in you, you want to be able to distinguish when you're not this way. And so you say, oh, wait a minute, I'm really breathing fast right now. Let me slow myself down. And then you can start to live from this place where you breathe in a way that you are running your activity level at that slower pace. Great opportunity now, especially when we're sheltered. So thank you for that. Any questions, any thoughts about that, how that worked for you? I'd like to hear from a few of you, if you don't mind.
Robert, I don't know how to do the hand raising. This is Constance.
That's great. No problem, Constance. I see you.
My battery on my laptop was going low, and I had to stop your presentation for a moment, and I didn't get the beginning part of the instructions about where to put the tongue on the palate and how to do the saha on the inside.
Yeah, the tongue is up to the roof of the mouth, as best you can get it there. I had some pictures, you'll see them in the slides. And you breathe in with thinking the word sa, the syllable sa, and so you'll hear it. And then exhale with the thinking of the syllable ha.
Okay, so you don't move your teeth per se to do the sa ha.
No, your lips are lightly sealed, your teeth are slightly together, tongue is up there.
The roof of the mouth, I kind of have it halfway back from between the teeth and the soft palate on top. Is there a special place?
You know, we have ridges behind our upper teeth, right at the first ridge.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. Anybody else? Did you like that?
Yeah,
I find that. Yes, please.
Verona here. I just want affirmation. My breathing became very, very slow. It's like the breathing when I'm going into sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of not. So it was like less effort to breathe and almost not shallow breaths, but quieter breaths. Is that what you're?
That's what we're after.
Okay.
And we want to live from that kind of breathing most of the time if we can. Not so that we're hungry for air, but that we're quiet in ourselves and the breathing. See, every time, why I do this exercise, Dr. Pateko spoke about it, the key is relaxation. That when the gravity and the exhale can get over, and the support we receive underneath gives us a chance to soften our tissues that were being held. You know, tensions, tightens. Those tensions can, like a dog and a cat, you know, when they lie on the ground, you can come along with a shovel and pick them up, right? They just let go of everything. So we're trying to teach our own body how to let go of our tensions. So when we let go of our tensions, well, how do we let go? We're allowing ourselves to rest on the support. We're receiving support. We got support. We can be easier in ourselves. When we do that, breathing doesn't have to work so hard because it doesn't have to get through the tensions, number one. And tension, the way I say it, is an oxygen gobbler. Tension needs a lot of energy to withhold, to keep it tense. So it burns a lot of oxygen and energy, so you have to breathe more to do that. You let go of the tension, like a baby sleeping. Now you don't even know if they're breathing. You're easier in your breath. And the other part of that that's really important, it's in my mind, but I'm going to have to pull it up. The tensions, a lot of people report, I hold my breath a lot. So what does that actually mean if you take a look at it? Well, some people say, well, I breathe in and I don't breathe. Okay, that's holding your breath. You're not breathing. Another way that we hold our breath is to have so much tension in the body that the breath is being held in a very small, tight space. And so that it can't let the body move and breathe. When the body moves and breathes without tension, it slows it down, Verona. It's just like you're speaking to. That's the key.
Yeah, because I asked the question because I felt like I actually needed less air. I mean,
You do.
The breathing, you know, it was just so quiet, but I didn't need air, but it was just, so that's, okay, great. I just,
Yeah, you know, those of you who have done yoga, and at the end of an hour of yoga and do shavasana, where you're just lying on the ground, you know, just in that resting pose, most people will report, God, I don't even know if I'm breathing. I've forgotten to breathe. Why? Well, you've just spent an hour of yoga of releasing all that body tension, and so the breathing is really quiet.
okay.
So sometimes we can't always do yoga, but gravity and allowing ourselves to feel the support of the earth holding us, and we can rest in that place and let tensions go. Okay, I'm just resting. I'm just being supported. Here, somebody's holding me. It's like the earth is holding me. I don't need to work so hard.
Thank you.
Robert, it's Sherry here. Oh, Barbara's got her hand up too.
Well, whoever's talking, go first. And then we'll
That's me, Sherry. I'm speaking first. Can you hear me?
Yes, see you, Sherry. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Hi. So just wanted to add in my experience, which is both that it was very pleasing and definitely slowing down, but also as that was going on, I could feel fearfulness coming in as well.
Sure.
Right? So I'm sure that's not an abnormal experience at all, but I just wanted to enter it into the conversation. So then it was a little dance between fear. Oh, I just breathed through my mouth.
I'm doing it too. So.
Yeah, between just trying to be curious and follow the inhale that felt right and the exhale that felt right, and noticing what was going on. So it was a useful experience.
Yeah.
Settling.
Excuse me, that's the gift of breathing. I mean, it does drop us in so that other things can be seen that we can't see when we're filled with other activities and tension.
Yes.
And so the thing with fear is you can't make it go away. All you can do is acknowledge it, feel the sensations of it, and breathe with it. So it's not like, I say this slide later, it's not about breathing into anything. When something shows up in awareness, breathe with it. It's wanting to be seen. Your breath is going to give it the life that it needs to be seen, and then it'll pass through. But if we resist it and want it to go away, try to do something with it, it'll persist. So no, I just really don't like the term breathing into anything. It's too active and it makes people crazy. I don't know how to do that, but I just notice something. Well, breathe with what you're noticing. Just keep noticing it, breathe with it, and it'll start to, breath gives everything life. And when fear comes up, you want to know that fear is there, and that's the truth of it. And I live my life because I have some fear, not being run by it. Okay, who else had their hand up?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Barbara and then Ann.
Yes. Again, during that exercise, I found myself doing the saw in 3 stages. And then I needed to open more, that I couldn't get breath just in the one. And we're not supposed to be doing 3 stages of the saw, right? I mean, that's each time again, there's choking here somewhere, but.
I can appreciate that, Barbara, and we could do something privately at some particular point. But again, it's like perhaps there's, like an instruction, which you said was true, but also trying to force too much.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, that's a very common thing to be forcing. Just really, the inhale's not meant to be more than 2 or 3 seconds at the most, anyway.
Yeah, but not it's very little open on just an inhale.
So, it's a funny thing. If you had a Coke bottle with an opening and you had a gallon bottle of water, you're not going to get the whole gallon of water through that opening of the Coke bottle. You have to drip it in really slowly. Same thing with here. It's about making the breath smaller, not smaller in terms of, get rid of the word smaller. It's like, can I take that volume and breathe slowly so I'm not taking in so much air at one time? It's a smaller opening, so I have to be slower and not try to grab so much air. Does that make sense to you?
It does. And this is
Okay.
wonderful. Thank you.
It's practice. That's why you do it 12 times a day, so you can practice and start to learn from your breathing. I'm just guiding you here. Breathing is going to be your teacher. Anne, you're muted. You have to unmute, Anne.
I didn't have my hand up. Is there another Ann?
There is another Anne.
Here, good. Okay,
There you go.
sorry. I tend to immediately tighten my diaphragm as soon as there's any breathing exercise. Like I immediately start to clamp it up. And it takes me a long time. So even when I have like an anxiety attack or so, I do the best by just talking so my breathing regulates again, or singing or dancing or something. But as soon as someone says to me, okay, now we're doing breathing, I'm like that.
Right. So that's why I said in the beginning, we're not doing breathing, we're doing movement. All right. Pay attention to movement.
Yeah.
And what I do when I can't find it, it's like, where's the gravity? Where's the support? Can I soften into support? Support, 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 support. More support I can find, the more my breath opens up.
Great. Thanks for the tip.
Sure. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? I hear a voice. Okay, moving along. So here, practice 5 to 10 minutes at a time. The thing is you're really wanting to get used to, oh yeah, I can really soften. I can really make my breath be quiet and easy for myself. And I know when I don't. So I was going to say one of the places that, when you hear yourself mouth breathing, I used to hate making the bed. And every time I made the bed, I could hear, I'm just crazy breathing really fast. And it's like, oh yeah, I hear it. All right. One step at a time. And I learned how to do that. And I don't mind making the bread. Yeah, Constant.
Do you, I'm assuming this might be private, but do you do lessons in breathing for singers?
I have, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just recently, my singing teacher, she suggested at the end, she suggested taking 3 nose breaths just before you sing, but she was also using the mouth before that, just to elevate the upper palate, because when you breathe in through your nose, you do, and you kind of smile as you're doing it, your upper palate gets lifted and you sing better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's good practice for so you don't get sleep apnea. All of a sudden, the palate doesn't drop. But most singers that I've worked with has complained because they say that most of the songs they try to sing are written by musicians who don't think about what the singer has to do with their voice.
Right. Yeah. Recently, we were going to do the B minor Mass, but it got canceled. But Bach didn't think about singers at all. He just.
Who thought about actors was Shakespeare. He put in the breathing breaks.
Great.
He annotated them for breathing breaks. All right. How do we take care of ourselves? Well, we know to wash our hands frequently, 20 seconds at a time, not to touch your face, which of course I've been doing. You can make your own hand sanitizer. These are old sneeze or cough into your sleeve. Wash them at the end of the day. Stay 6 feet away. Quarantine. Hawaii. If you try to fly to Hawaii now, get off the plane. It's a 14-day quarantine before you can do anything. Go to the beach or anything. You got to be in a $5,000 fine if they catch you on the street. So all of these exercises are, we'll get to it in a minute. All right, this is new information that came through this morning from a doctor in Canada. So what they discovered, and this is very new today to me, I just put this up, is that in the autopsies, they're saying that the thing that killed people was the obstruction in the airway from mucous membranes, just like it would be for asthmatics, same kind of thing. The airways were way too filled with mucus. So these were the, besides what we're doing here, and we're actually taking a full-on Pateco class, which will give you more skills, is to, throughout the day, drink lots of hot liquids and sip warm water every 20 minutes so you can get the virus down into your stomach before it lodges in your throat. Gargle with the antiseptic, which could be like vinegar or salt or lemon. And this person was saying, if you're in a contaminated area or around a lot of people, as soon as you get in the house, before you sit down, before you touch anything, before you do anything, take a shower or a bath. Clean yourself off, wash it off your body, and wash your clothes or hang them in the sunlight. Wash all metallic surfaces. We know that. Don't smoke. Wash your hands. Eat fruits and vegetables. Animals are not spreading the virus. Avoid a common flu. Great, that's a nice thought. Avoid drinking cold things. And if you feel a sore throat coming on, deal with it immediately. It takes 3 days to 4 days in the throat before it goes into the lungs. Interesting piece that I didn't know. So taking care of that sore throat, gargling, and doing all those things to try to get that virus out of your throat before it gets into the lungs. But it was interesting when I listened to this and heard it. They always say, and when you get it through your mouth, nobody's talking about not mouth breathing. And the thing that really annoys me is all the advice out there. Nobody's talking about how to pay attention to your breathing as a way of defense for this. Nobody's talking about styles of breathing. All right, this is really a Buteyko exercise that I find incredibly powerful, and it's called a mini pause. And it's a mini pause because we're pausing the breath at the end of the exhale. So as it says here, it's good to do this exercise for 10 to 15 minutes before going to sleep to reduce nasal congestion and to boost your immune system. And you want to use it after every cough, after every sneeze, after every yawn, after every sigh, every time you use your mouth for breathing. Now I'll explain that in a minute. So you breathe in through your nose, you breathe out, you don't have to pinch, and you just suspend breathing for 3 to 5 seconds. So just try that, and just notice where you breathe when you breathe in again. So what I find about this is coughing, sneezing, yawning, sighing are all energies that come up here. So if you're coughing and repeating and sneezing repeatedly or sighing and yawning repeatedly, all your energy is up here, which means you're going to start breathing from your chest. And once you start breathing from your chest, you've lost the ability to have the breath really nurture you in a good way. And you're caught in a cycle of fast breathing and anxiety breathing. So doing a mini pause, breathe in, breathe out, hold 3 to 5 seconds after you've coughed. Immediately, for me, it brings me back down to my diaphragm breathing. It's really important to do this. Now, when I first learned this, it's been so many years ago, my teacher told me that if I'm starting to feel sick, you want to do this 100 times in a day, as soon as you start to feel sick. I had somebody on the program last week who took the Buteyko class, and she misinterpreted, I think, or maybe she got it right and I said it that way. She does 100 of them in a half an hour. She said every time she's gotten a sore throat, she's disappeared. She hasn't been sick since she took the class in 2005, always. So I've taken to doing that. If I feel like this growth scratchy, I do them every other breath for a half an hour. I'm a little concerned for people who might have heart stuff because there's a lot of breath holding and could raise blood pressure. So do it as frequently as it feels comfortable for you. But if you've gotten a cold too and you are sneezing and coughing, you want to do this. This is a great exercise to return you to belly breathing using your diaphragm, helping disappear, boost your immune system. What you're basically doing is those 3 to 5 second holds are increasing your carbon dioxide levels, trying to bring them back into balance, what they should be in the body. Once that happens, you're releasing more oxygen through your system, which is going to boost your immune system, which is going to help you either both recover or prevent something from happening. Very powerful exercise.
Robert,
Yeah,
could I
Ruth.
just add to that?
Huh?
Could I just add to that?
Sure, Ruth.
It's Chris Bowman. I'm also a Buteyko.
Oh, hi, Chris. Okay.
In addition to everything that Robert's talking about, mini pauses are unbelievably powerful for inflammation. I had a client who had terrible rash on her legs, and it had moved up into her belly, and it was so extreme that she couldn't do anything. She had been taking steroidal creams, and she'd been doing everything her doctor told her, and nothing was working. And so she was quite open to me at that point, and I said, okay, 100 mini pauses in an hour, and I want you to do it 4 times a day. And at the end of the day, she sent me a photograph of her legs. She'd sent them to me what they look like in the morning. And at the end of the day, there was a 50% change, and it was completely gone within 3 days.
Great. So you said 100 in an hour, 4 times a day.
Yeah.
Great.
She was in a very extreme state. I have never asked anybody to do that before.
What do you usually ask them, Chris, for 100 in an hour?
100 in an hour, depending on how sick somebody is.
Okay.
But yeah, what you've described, 15 minutes before going to sleep, or if you're starting to get a cold, all of those are really, I think that's an adequate amount.
Great. Yeah, this is such a simple exercise, easy to do, and just a great piece of just great skill. And I also said, the thing that I like about it is it brings you back down to belly breathing. It keeps you from getting caught in a habit of being in your chest. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, Ruth, okay. Ruth, go ahead, and then Morgan.
So, Robert, is there, I've always heard that if your out breath is a little longer than your in breath, it's very good to get you into parasympathetic.
Yes.
So when you're doing this, do you have like a particular count number that you like for in breath and out breath, or? No,
I mean, you could say 2 seconds, 3 seconds, hold.
Okay.
That would be good. It depends a little bit, Ruth, on if you're really in a place where you're really struggling for breath, or feel like you're breathing fast. A 2-3 pace would probably be enough. If you're already feeling pretty relaxed, it may be a 2-4 or 2-5.
Okay, great.
And then a hold for 3 to 5 seconds.
Okay.
3 to 4 says here. Okay, Morgan.
That answered my question.
That was your question?
You answered it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, great.
The other thing I just wanted to possibly mention for using to keep your nostrils moist, which helps keeps bacteria out, is either a silver solution spray, or Zach Bush makes one that used to be called Restore, and now it's ionic, and it's like purified water with some humic acids.
Great. Why don't you write that in the chat box, Ruth, so everybody can see it. Sandy, you had your hand up.
Yes, I was, I had it up and curious about, you had said earlier about that 2 to 3 seconds for inhale. And so that's all that we're wanting is 2 to 3 seconds.
Sandy, it depends. Like when we're trying to slow our breathing down and get down to a place where we're not over breathing, a 2 to 3 second inhale is probably plenty if we're really relaxed. But if you're running around or being busy, and probably your inhale is going to be less. But it's a funny thing about breathing. Breathing is never the same twice. So it's like, let's say I've been running around and sort of got myself a little out of breath, and I sit down and get really quiet, and I start to really relax my body, and I come back to, some gravity. My breaths are going to get really big for a breath or two. It's like, oh, my body needs to restore itself. I've been breathing so small and trying to do so much with small breaths that it wants to fullness of it. But a regular, quiet breathing breath, 2 to 3 seconds usually.
Inhale.
When I'm really relaxed, and it's a small amount, it's not a large. I mean, in Buteyko World, we say, Buteyko teaching, it's about a Coke can like size of breath. That's all you need. With a Coke can, 8 ounces.
All right. Thanks, Robert.
Small amount of breath.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're giving some general tips here, but a real Buteyko class will give you lots of practice and education, and get all those questions. But we're doing a good job here getting information out. So,
Robert, I have a quick something to say.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. Go ahead. I can't see who's talking. Oh.
This is Xana.
Xana, I see you, Xana.
Hi. So just a little note on the colloidal silver. So normally colloidal silver is awesome. However, for the COVID-19 outbreak, the reason lungs fill up with fluid is because of something called a cytokine storm or a cytokine storm. And unfortunately, colloidal silver helps or produces that.
Oh.
So we want to stay away from colloidal silver for this virus.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Yeah, great. So I think the common signs of infection: fever, dry, hacking cough, shortness of breath, an increase in asthma medications if you're an asthmatic, heavy chest, difficult breathing, in more severe cases, infection, pneumonia, kidney failure. Okay, we know that. So I think, it's not airborne, but like I said, for the aerosolized, it can be. Our nose is our first defense. And the immune system, you have to understand, is not a separate biological function from the rest of the body. The body functions as a functioning immune system. It's all of us. It's not just one particular part. I don't like reductionism. You don't have to have symptoms to be a carrier. That's what's really happening here. So many people are carrying it and have no symptoms. And as of today, there are 11 times more cases than reported. So this is our nose, just to show you a quick picture. So if you're tracking movement, you want to track the spiral wave-like motion. That's what your nose looks like without the nose up at the top here, where you see the turbinates, that spirally air that goes into the lungs. It's my favorite picture. We are spiraling with breath all the time. Oh, that's a repeat slide. The respiratory system delivers oxygen to the cells to manufacture energy for the functioning of the rest of the body. And when the body is fully oxygenated and manufacturing the full complement of energy, the body has a chance to stay strong and function well. This supports all immune system functioning. Nose breathing is the best chance to stay healthy. Mouth breathing puts all the pollutants directly into our lungs. This is important for me as a friend. Breathing is my friend. It's a sacred gift. It deserves honor, caring, tenderness, and grace. Don't push on it. Breathing touches us on the inside, offering the potential for comfort, especially now, social distancing or at home. What more better thing you have to do is to be touched on the inside by your own breathing. And we share air with all living creatures. It's the one thing, there's two things that we do. We all are subject to gravity, and we all breathe the same atmosphere. It's a unified field of breath, not yours, not mine, all of ours. As James Lovelock says, we create this atmosphere through our breathing and through what we do on the planet business. All right, so it's a little bit more extended periods of anxiety and fear. This is the difficulty. This is what we're really up against. And once we're in fear-based reality, the immune system thinks there's a threat in the space. So it's going to try to clear out everything that is not useful for our functioning in the moment. Unfortunately, we have seen over time that the immune system will go after healthy tissue. Once it gets haywire from fear and anxiety, and that's what's the problem. It's creating way too much debris in the lungs and the airways, and that debris is what's helping clog up the system. So we want to stay quiet. We want to notice the fear, but not be at the effect of the fear. So all these breathing exercises today were to help you find a different kind of baseline than the fear, even though the fear may be there. Extended periods of fear and anxiety reduce the oxygen delivery. It shuts down digestion, keeps the heart racing. People think they're having panic, think they're having heart attacks. Makes your blood flow, reduce blood flow from the skin, so you look pale, cold hands, tingling in face, hands and feet, increase blood flow to the muscles. Tunnel vision, don't want to care what's on the outside, sweating to cool the body, and especially repetitive or obsessive thoughts. The brain does not have a nervous system that reports pain. So what does it do? It sends up repetitive thoughts to tell you you're in anxious anxiety. The thoughts are your cue that you're anxious. Now, you're not going to be able to solve the problem from those thoughts. You got to shift your field into something quiet to see that those thoughts are just thoughts, and they're just a warning sign. So I just want to give you this little piece to do. Just kind of focus on your screen. Just notice your sense of how much connection you have to everything else, and then just open up your peripheral vision. Our sense of belonging in the world lives in the periphery, that we are included in the circle of humanity. When we're focused out here only, we start to feel isolated. Start to feel isolated, open up that breath, touch from the inside, and look to the sides. Nice, huh? All right, mini pause, we did that. So this is going to be in your notes, so you'll get this. This is a really important, there are a number of them, but this is one that's really good. This one you can do for somebody else, and this one you can do for yourself. It's really simple. You find yourself over breathing. This is a way to, you sit down to breathe and you think, well, I'm going to quiet my breathing, and there's no way you can quiet it. It's just running rampant. Your thoughts are running rampant. It's like, I cannot meditate right now. I can't get quiet. I can't feel gravity. I can't do anything. Great. Here's the, wow, look at those red lines. Did they just show up in there? Wow, I must have done that. So these exercises are used once for anxiety and hyperventilation, and if you're having an asthma attack and your inhaler is not handy, or you want to try this before you use an inhaler. So you use a second hand on a watch or a clock to time yourself, or just do the old trick, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000. So you do the best you can. You breathe in for 2 seconds and out for 3 seconds, and you pause for 2 seconds. Very specific. You breathe in for 2 seconds and out for 3 seconds, and you pause for 3 seconds. In for 2, out for 3, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds. And once you get to 6 seconds, you go right back to 5, 4, 3, 2. I'm getting my stopwatch out. We're going to do this together. If you have asthma, you don't stop at 6. You go to 7, you go to 8, you go to 9 to 10, back from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. If you can't get to 10, you feel like it's too difficult and you have to open your mouth to breathing, stop at 7, stop at 6, stop at 8, come back from there. I, being an asthmatic, have been caught without my inhalers in difficult situations. This exercise is always, luckily, opened my airways. It feels really stressful going up, but on the way down, airways start to open up. Why? Because we're holding our breath for a while. We're increasing our CO2 levels. CO2 level acts as a vaso and bronchial dilator. The airways are receiving that extra CO2. The airways start to open up. All right, going to try this with me. Everybody get comfortable. Be anxious so we can get reduced. Just kidding, of course. So I'm going to tell you the instructions. I'm going to say breathe in. I'm going to say breathe out. I'm going to say suspend, and I'll count the seconds. Then I'll say breathe in, and we'll go all the way along that way. Okay, everybody ready? Do it if you want. If not, just listen to what happens. Ready? Breathe in. Breathe out. Suspend. 1, 2. Breathe in. Breathe out. Suspend. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. Breathe out. Suspend. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. Breathe out. Suspend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in. Breathe out. Suspend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in. Breathe out. Suspend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in. Breathe out. Suspend. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. Breathe out. Suspend. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. Breathe out. Suspend. 1, 2. Breathe in. Breathe out. Great. As an 81-second exercise, I have stopped people's panic attacks in 81 seconds. Everybody feel a little different and relaxed? It may be too fast because you may already be relaxed, but generally it's great. And you can do this to somebody. You find somebody's anxious, you say, okay, listen, why don't you just follow my instructions for a little bit? And bingo. It'll help them. I stopped somebody's panic attack at a camp once, and he still went to the doctor because he thought he was having a heart attack, but they told me he was just having a panic attack. Okay, I see 2 hands raised. Whoever they are, Suzanne, go ahead.
I think this is reminding me, is this similar to an exercise you can do if you have insomnia?
Yes, you can. I use it every day. If I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm right on this. And usually I don't get past 3 and I'm asleep again.
Okay, I thought so. Thank you.
Yeah, because what's happening is your body needs the oxygen and carbon dioxide to stay asleep. It's struggling, so it helps put it back in the right place.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And one other hand was up. Yeah, Laura. Got it, Laura. You got to unmute yourself, Laura. All right, let me do it for you, I think. Okay, go ahead, speak, Laura.
I was just saying, I learned this from you a number of years ago, and I've used it in some pretty extreme circumstances with huge stressors, and it really is amazing. So
Great.
just wanted to back you up on that.
Thank you. Good to see you. All right. Oops, I got to come over here. I don't know where that red thing came up. So nasal wash we talked about. Some of you may know Stephen Porges with the vagus nerve information. He did a nice little video. I put this up. I put this up for you. Social distancing. The best thing, basically, what he just said, basically, is skip the texting, skip the emails, do FaceTime, do Skype, make eye contact, see each other. You know, if you're used to making a phone call or you're used to doing that, try to do it so you can see each other. The other is fine too, but really to increase that sort of heart response, make eye contact. All right, Suzanne, you're at your hand raised.
No, you know what? I'm the culprit. I was trying to write a comment, but I did that red pen. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay, good. Good to know where it came from. Oh, that's why it's up on every slide now. I see. Okay, great.
I'm sorry. I'm a newbie. I apologize, everyone. Let's just look at it as a check mark to everything he's saying. Sorry.
All right, so we won't have time for this right now, but just these are on the thing. I like to feel my heart rate on the way up and way down. There's a meditation when I'm breathing. Kind of helps slow my breathing down. Just start to tune. As I get quieter, I start to notice my heart pound, not pounding, but beating. And I just keep that in my awareness as I breathe in and I breathe out. And it's a really nice meditation. And I also like to track sensations. Any sensation that arises at the end of my exhale, I keep in my awareness. And I breathe with that awareness of that sensation. I see it as my body's intelligence calling my attention to a place that has not been moving with breath. It's been held still. And so that sensation is calling my attention. I bring my attention to it. I breathe while my attention is there. And that place starts to move. And then it changes for the next breath. Before I know it, all my body is now moving, and now a lot more of it is allowing the support to come up from the bottom. So in the last few minutes, some of you see taping at mouth. This is paper tape. This is 1/2-inch paper tape. If you are a mouth breather at night while you're sleeping, you're keeping yourself in fight or flight while you're sleeping. Your mouth, you know how you keep your mouth open at night if your mouth is really dry in the morning. So you can get a piece of tape. The important thing about a piece of tape is you must bend over a part of the tape at the end so it's not sticky. Wash your hands. You take some of the sticky off by putting it on the back of your hands. And then you can wear it one of 4 ways. You can start off here as a reminder. You can graduate to one piece here and another piece here. But eventually what we're looking to do so if you want to cough in the middle of the night, you go right to that tab, and you want to take it off really gently because you could tear your lips. And if you find it in your hair in the morning, you took it off while you were sleeping. Most common place for people to find it is they don't keep it on, it's wrapped around the finger. It makes you feel, the idea of it makes you anxious. Do it while you're washing the dishes. Do it while you're watching television. Just give it a try at other times so you get used to the idea. If it bothers you and it interrupts your sleeping, take it off. Yeah, Constance.
What do you mean by paper tape? What kind of tape is that?
This is called paper tape. It's sold in the CVS and in Walgreens. On the first aid, it's called paper tape. You'd never want to buy the cheap brand of Walgreens or CVS. They use terrible glue, Nextcare, Johnson & Johnson. I buy these, unfortunately. This is a 1/2-inch. In the store, you can find 3/4 inch and 1 inch. They're close to $5 a roll. This is from Amazon. Sorry to plug Amazon. It's 39 cents. So you choose. But it's paper tape. This is made by 3M. It's micropore paper tape. It's hypoallergenic. And Somnex has new tape on the market. It's clear. It's got a little opening in the middle if you'd have to mouth breathe. I think I don't know what the price of that box is. You get 20 pieces for so much. I find the paper tape just as effective. All right, you know that we're supposed to be wearing masks if you go outside. You know what N95s look like, everybody? N95s look like this. They have this valve, and that's for the exhale, so it doesn't get hot and moist in here. It's got 2 straps, so it's tighter fitting. It's got a metal piece at the top so you can put it around your nose. That's why they recommend them, so you can make it a tight fit on your nose. They're really, in smoke, they're only good for 2 hours. And once you do that, you gotta take them, throw them away. You gotta be really careful if you're using them in a high contagion area, because the contagion's out here. If you touch them, you gotta be careful what you do with your hands. They're hard to find now. The filters in your house, I recommend everybody have a filter, especially with wildfires. You want a HEPA filter. Charcoal is the only thing that does smoke. And the ones they're saying for the virus is to have ones that have silver in them now also. I have an air monitor in the house that looks like this. Blows me away how contaminated my air gets just from cooking. So if you're highly susceptible, you need an air monitor. This resource is on the list. And so if there's fires outside and you can't open your windows to make your house feel more comfortable, you can't cook in a house. If you have an asthmatic or any respiratory diseases, smoke in the house, cooking in the house is devastating. So I am a Pateco breathing method teacher. I'm also, some of you got this, it's on the slide. I'm now combined with a medical professional in Seattle. We are doing telehealth breathing sessions. Insurance will pay for them. So it's a new opening for me, and I think it's a new opening for everybody, because before Pateco couldn't be covered by insurance by most policies, so this will cover insurance for these lessons. So that's on the slide. And this is a list of resources of things that I thought you might be interested in. And you'll see this. We don't stay up here, but this is a whole list of reasons to nose breathe. And some of you may know, if you want to, take like a mini pause. This is more information than, but the control pause is something we use in Pateco, and there are a lot of YouTubes on there. So if you want to get it correctly, because we don't have a whole lot of time, but you breathe in normally, get yourself relaxed. You take a breath in, you take a breath out, you pinch your nose, and you see how many seconds you can actually hold your breath on the end of an exhale. I can give you more information about that, but like I said, go on YouTube. And that will tell you, because the normal we're looking for is anything above 23 is normal, but if you can only hold your breath for just a few seconds, 3 or 4, after you've been sick, your respiratory system is very compromised at a particular point. So I'm hesitant to do this one because people are not meant to do it 20, 40 times a day to check themselves, once or twice a day to see how you're doing perhaps. But I can give more information privately on this. And like I said, there are many YouTubes on how to take a control pause. I don't know if Chris is still there, if you want to say anything about this, Chris. But it is a good measurement, because there's a thing on the internet now, breathe in, hold your breath for 44 seconds and breathe out. And if you cough, you've got the virus. A little too packed for me, but this control pause is also a good measurement to say, if I can't really hold my breath for more than 3 or 4 or 5 seconds at the end of an exhale, and when I'm sick, your respiratory system is very compromised. But this is on your sheet. Yeah, Ruth?
I wanted to just ask Zana if she could explain once more with the, is it all silver or just colloidal silver, and how it affects the cytokine storm?
So what I'll do, they did a study for the H1N1 virus, which has that same effect. And I can put a link to the website that gives all the substances and exactly what it does. but all the substances that incite the cytokine storm, which is what this virus also does. So it was a study done for H1N1, but it applies to this virus as well because it's the same process. Okay, so I'll add that in the comments.
Great. So just checking in with everybody. Our last.
Just a quick comment. There was a Snopes hoax that was the info from Stanford. When you said info from a Canadian doctor, previously it was Stanford notes on the coronavirus, and Snopes, which is the hoax detector, said that that was a hoax.
Which was?
The thing about breathing, you know, breathing in and then not being able to hold your breath, and then
oh good.
And the water coming down that washes away the virus. None of that is proven. So you really need to go to CDC or WHO, or I think Sanjay Gupta, the CNN medical correspondent, has a podcast on fact versus fiction. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that somebody from my church sent that around, and then somebody else said that's on Snopes.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, so really what we're doing here, just to reiterate what we're doing here, of course, is that we're really just learning how to breathe quietly so that it's really nourishing us, and so that we're keeping ourselves healthy, keeping ourselves out of an anxiety storm, particularly. And recognizing that, you know, reality is all our efforts to be present is being present to our sensations in the moment. Presence is a sensory experience, and the more we can be in our senses, which means more in our breathing and how it feels in our body, and being in touch with that, the healthier we can stay, and also help our recovery. And I cannot tell you how many people that I have worked with over the years and then got sick and then came to me 6 months later and said, I can't seem to get rid of this cold. And I thought, well, you do your exercises? Do you take care of your breathing? Do you pay attention? No, I've been too sick. I can't think of it. Well, they can't recover quickly because they get caught up in here and trying to do something with their breath that they can't get the health they need. So I've been pleased to be with you all. I'm going to do this again next week, so I'll pass the word along. Is there anything else anybody else wants to add in?
I have a question for you, Robert.
Yeah.
It's Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi. I'm also a bit of a newbie with how to go back and have access to the Zoom comments, links that people are putting in the chat. Could you explain how we would get back into that?
You know what I'll do? Thank you for that, Rebecca. What I'll do is I will send you 2 links. I will send one on a YouTube channel, which will just have the video. And I will send you one from my Google Drive, and that will have the chats. It'll have it in audio, and it will have it in a video also. So you can go into that, you can click on that chat thing, and all the chats will come up.
Robert?
Yeah.
Verona here. I have a question. The information specifically that was on on your on the slideshow.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have access to that?
Yeah, when I send out the links, I will send out a PDF of the slides.
Okay.
Yeah, it will be on all the information on the slides.
Could I ask a question, Robert? It's
Sure.
Lily.
Hi, Lily. Hi.
Hi. I'm wondering, you know, right before this, I had moved out of my apartment, so I've been in an Airbnb, but in terms of the indoor air quality, would it be like, you know, just trying to assess like, if it's musty, kind of musty, and then also, if you said that cooking can really reduce the indoor air quality, what about having a fire, like a wood fire going?
Yeah, they all will reduce the indoor air quality unless they're really well ventilated.
Mm-hmm. But but it's probably makes sense if looking into a place to be for a while to like get some sense of the air quality in it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I mean, I carry my air quality monitor around to restaurants to see what the restaurant feels like. It's just, you know, most people, it depends on your level of sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're highly sensitive, you'll probably notice it right away.
Yeah, I know I did, and then it's almost like I've gotten used to it or something, which I don't know if that's a good thing.
Well, you know, the best thing you can do for yourself, of course, is to open the windows if you're in an area that's not having wildfires. Just open the windows, get some fresh air, clear it out. That works pretty quickly. The other piece about the air quality, and we could just say this now too, is that if you sleep in a bedroom, if there's one of you or two of you in a bedroom and sleeping with no windows open, the carbon dioxide levels in the bedroom will go over 2,000 parts per million. And normal right now on the planet is 440. 2,000 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the bedroom reduces your cognitive ability by 21%. So you wake up in the morning and you're groggy and you've had the windows closed. Your brain is really groggy. It can't cope with that much CO2. So that's the other issue about not opening windows at night in the house, is that just a couple of people breathing in a room will just skyrocket. That's most schools that don't open the windows. Kids can't learn because their CO2 levels are way up in the 2000s easily.
Thank you.
Yeah. Verona, did you have a question?
No, I've written some comments to you.
Okay. I just, I've got 10 new messages now. I also just copied all the comments just to make sure that I kept them so that we have them all. Yeah, I'm going to copy those too. Okay, anything else? You can certainly write me, you know, ask me questions. I'm more than happy to do, of course, private sessions if anybody wants one. Or tune in next week. Or any suggestions on how to get these messages out further afield, maybe more to Europe, maybe more to the main media, so they start talking about people's ability to breathe and how to take care of their breathing properly.
Latin America.
What was that?
I said Latin America also.
Yes, and then going to be Africa for sure.
Are you doing the same seminar next week or a different
It's
one?
always different. It's always different. I mean, a lot of the information and the exercises will be the same. My conversation will be different based on what's going on in the world, based on the questions, but you know, the exercises are going to be the same. I might refine my ability to articulate them as I go along, but yeah. If you go to the YouTube, my YouTube breathing channel, The Breathable Body, the last two forums are on there if you want to look and see what I taught and what the conversations were, and some breathing tips there too. I did some of these exercises in video and put them up there also. I haven't done one on Saha yet, but I will this week. All right, well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, thank you. Adios.
Great, thank you.
All right, I'm going to copy these last few messages so that we have them before I sign off.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Breathe well, be well, in the words of Dr. Robert Fried.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.